Welcome back, A22. Initializing VR Test Lab. New subject detected, Ghostrunner 2. Preparing combat movement analysis. Ghostrunner 2 enters the lab with one obvious advantage. If cyberpunk violence is going to work in VR, a sword is already smarter than a missing gun. Test sequence ready. All systems ready. Ghostrunner 2 test begins now. Try not to die immediately. Subject selected Ghostrunner 2. Previous experiment failure logged. Today we test speed, sword combat, movement, and survival.
Okay. This is what I wanted Void/Breaker to feel like in VR fast movement. Cyberpunk chaos, sword fights, boss fights, a motorcycle. And somehow, this one actually makes a lot more sense. Today, Ghostrunner 2 enters the A22 VR Test Lab. After Voidbreaker failed the VR test, I wanted to try something that had a better chance. So today we're testing Ghostrunner 2 in VR. We're looking at the same stuff: functionality, comfort, visuals, combat, replayability, and whether this is actually worth trying in VR. But this time, the test is a little different. Ghostrunner 2 is not just another shooter. This game is built around speed, movement, sword combat, boss fights, wall running, abilities, and that crazy cyberpunk style. So the real question is simple. Does all that become amazing in VR, or does it become too much?
I've got over 50 guys on the way. Just hang in there. Don't let them leave.
The first thing I wanted to test was the intense stuff. Boss fights, fast combat, heavy movement, quick reactions. The moments where a VR conversion either feels awesome or completely falls apart. And honestly, this is where Ghostrunner 2 already feels better than Void/Breaker. With Void/Breaker, the problem was that everything looked cool, but the actual gameplay became hard to read. The gun was hard to see, the screen got messy, and the whole thing started feeling like the game was fighting me. Ghostrunner 2 feels different. The combat is still fast, but it has a cleaner structure. You know where the enemy is. You know when you're attacking. You know when you messed up. And even when the game gets intense, it feels like controlled chaos instead of random visual noise. The boss fights are where you really feel that. You're not just standing there shooting into a mess. You're moving, timing, dodging, attacking, and reacting. And in VR, that actually makes the game feel more intense in a good way. Not perfect. Definitely not easy, but way more readable. The sword also helps a lot. In VR, a simple readable weapon is a big deal. A sword is easier to understand than a gun that keeps disappearing or blending into the screen. That alone gives Ghostrunner 2 a huge advantage. And when the boss fights get going, the game has that feeling I wanted from this series. That feeling of, okay, this probably should not work in VR, but somehow I want to keep going. That is what makes a good test lab episode. You can tell it's not made for VR. You can feel that. But the foundation of the game is strong enough that the experiment becomes interesting instead of frustrating. The intensity actually helps the video, because every fight feels like a test. Can I keep up? Can I react fast enough? Can I tell what's happening? Can I survive more than 10 seconds? And that's where Ghostrunner 2 starts earning points. It's fast, it's sharp, it's punishing, but it's not unreadable. For a game like this, that's a win.
Combat stress test active. Boss fights are functioning. Subject death rate is high, but strangely educational.
After the intense parts, I wanted to test the fun side of the game. Because a VR test is not just about whether the boss fights work. It's also about whether the game feels cool to exist inside. And Ghostrunner 2 has a lot going for it here. The bike is a big one. Riding the motorcycle in VR feels like the kind of thing that instantly makes the experiment more interesting. It gives the game a completely different energy. You're not just running around slicing enemies. Now you're flying through this cyberpunk world with speed, lights, roads, and movement all around you. That is exactly the kind of thing VR can make feel bigger. And even when you're not fighting, just exploring the world feels good, because the game has such a strong visual identity. You have the city, the cyberpunk lighting, the vertical spaces, the futuristic architecture, the movement routes, the neon, the machines. It all fits the headset really well. Functionality-wise, this is where Ghostrunner 2 feels much stronger than Void/Breaker. It still has VR experiment energy. It's not perfect, but it feels like there's a reason to keep testing. The abilities are another big part of that. When you start using dashes, jumps, sword attacks, movement tools, and all the extra things the game gives you, the VR test becomes more than a gimmick.
Mobility test active. Motorcycle systems feel unnecessarily cool. Replayability detected, despite repetitive user error.
You want to replay it. You want to take the headset off and never speak of it again. But Ghostrunner 2 has that one more try feeling. You die, but you want to run it back. You mess up, but you want to clean it up. You see a section and think, I can do that better. That matters. That's one of the biggest differences between this and the last test. Void/Breaker felt like it was failing because the conversion was getting in the way. Ghostrunner 2 feels like it's challenging you because that's the game. That difference is huge. One feels broken, the other feels dangerous. And dangerous is way more fun. One of the biggest reasons Ghostrunner 2 works better in VR is the level design. This game understands speed. The levels are built around movement, timing, routes, verticality, and quick decisions. That matters because in VR, bad level design gets exposed immediately. If the space is confusing, you feel lost. If the combat is messy, you feel overwhelmed. If the movement has no flow, you feel sick. But Ghostrunner 2 has a rhythm to it. You can feel the game pushing you forward. Wall run here, dash there, attack now, move again, try again, die, learn it, repeat it. That structure helps the VR test a lot. And that makes sense when you look at what Ghostrunner is as a series. The first Ghostrunner came out in 2020 and built its whole identity around fast first-person cyberpunk movement and one-hit kill sword combat. Ghostrunner 2 took that formula and expanded it with bigger environments, more abilities, more world building, and the motorcycle sections. So this is not a random game that just happens to be fast. This series is built around that speed run, die and retry, cyber ninja feeling. That's why it fits the A22 VR Test Lab so well. It has style, but it also has structure, and that structure is what Void/Breaker was missing in VR. Void/Breaker looked amazing, but it became hard to read. Ghostrunner 2 also looks amazing, but the level design helps your brain understand what is happening. That is the difference. So, is Ghostrunner 2 worth trying in VR? I'd say yes, with a warning. This is not a beginner VR experience. It's fast, intense, and sometimes a lot to handle. You probably need decent VR legs to really enjoy it. But compared to Void/Breaker, this is a much stronger experiment. The combat is cleaner. The movement is better. The world feels cooler to explore. The bike sections are actually fun. The level design gives the chaos direction. And most importantly, I actually wanted to keep playing. That's the real test. So final verdict, Ghostrunner 2 passes the A22 VR Test Lab. Not perfect, not easy, but absolutely worth trying if you want fast cyberpunk action in VR. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more of how this series evolves, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Experiment complete. Ghostrunner 2 passes movement, combat, and replayability. Comfort remains questionable. Final verdict, worth trying in VR.